Hello, welcome to Screen Talk with yours truly, Nomfanelo. So, over the weekend, the Wall Street Journal published this article called Fast and Furious and Way Less Expensive. A star film franchise gets a reality check. It says long running film series are sputtering at the box office. Universal wants to cut the budget of its most important franchise by 140 million. Like, is it really the most important franchise by the studio? I don't know about that. Maybe it's one of them, but I don't know if it's the. But, anyways, regardless. So, I'm not able to open this article because it's under paywall. But I was able to find through Reddit Fred that someone posted the excerpt of the article. So I want to thank this user Lowell217. I'm like, thank you for posting the text of the article for those that can't read it, because I tried to open the article through one of those read paywall sites. It didn't work out. So at least I'm able to find it on Reddit. So here goes. The Auto Racing Festival Fuel Fest this summer featured everything fans of the Fast and Furious movies love: tricked out cars, drag racing, live music, and DJs. Then, to top it all off, Vin Diesel took the stage. Wearing a sleeveless shirt that read Toretto's Garage, named after the character in the franchise that made him a star, Diesel said he had just met with executives at Universal who urged him to deliver the next Fast and Furious movie by April 27, 20, by April 2027. I said under three conditions, Diesel declared: to return the franchise to Los Angeles, delve back into racing culture, and reunite Toretto with his former partner, who was played by the late Paul Walker. This is what you're gonna get, he yelled as he walked off the stage. So if you're, as a reminder, so with the last movie, Fast X, it came out a few years ago. It didn't do well at the box office because I think it made over, what was it, 750 million, but the production budget was 340 million, which is way too high for any movie, but at least not as high as the latest Mission Impossible movie, which that was what, 400 million, probably more. And I imagine with that movie it was probably more with marketing, but it's ridiculous either way for that budget. I'm like, why? What were they thinking? So with that movie, I would say probably it's up there in terms of being the worst of the franchise. It was just not great. And essentially, it ended in cliffhangers because I think it was marketed as part one. And if I'm remembering correctly, because I think originally it was supposed to be two-parter, but then I think Vin Diesel at some point said, "Oh, we're gonna do three-parter," which was honestly confusing. But essentially, yeah, there's some cliffhangers in the last movie. So I think the plan was for part two, or Fast 11, to hopefully tie up those loose ends and all that stuff. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with this movie, assuming if it does happen. But yeah, with the three A's that he's saying here. So with street racing culture, I mean, so the point of the franchise was to highlight that street racing culture. And then at some point, it was probably starting like with the fourth movie or maybe the fifth movie, they decided to go in a different direction. In fact, I have article here from Variety. So Donna Langley, who's the NBC Universal chief, so she did a panel at the Toronto International Film Festival in September. And I guess at some point she was talking about Fast and Furious, and essentially she apologized for sending the movie into space, saying, "We can never get that genie back." So So Don Langley is the NBC Universal Studio Group and Chief Content Officer. So during her discussion with Cameron Bailey, who's the festival director at TIFF, she said that between Tokyo Drift and 2009's Fast and Furious movie, the films they decided to shake up their creative direction and make them less about racing culture. She says, quote, "We knew that we had to figure out how to grow it. We made a conscious decision to pivot to a sort of a globe-trotting heist scenario." Now, for me, like initially when it went in that direction, I didn't mind it too much. But at the same time, like I had concerns about it, obviously. So, because I really enjoyed Fast Five, where they were doing the whole heist in Brazil, and then of course with the sixth one dealing with Jason Statham's brother and Letty's return and all that stuff. So, but I think yeah, if as long as there were limitations to the idea, I wouldn't mind it. But it's just after the sixth movie, it just went off the rails with that direction. And I think it's why like they're in the position that they're in now. They just went off the rails. And I think at times they just listened to film Twitter by putting certain things just did not ultimately make sense. Like in the ninth movie, I believe, when Ludacris and Tyrese they head to space, I think like I saw like on Twitter people were suggesting that before that actually became a thing in the movie. And I'm just wondering like what is this doing in the Fast and Furious movie? It just did not make sense. But yeah, it was just nuts to see that. Um Apparently, Langley credited Vin Diesel with having a deep understanding of the core of the audience. She says, quote, "Vin was an early adopter of talking to his fans directly. As we saw that growing and we saw where the conversation was going, we've always been very fan first on the Fast franchise." I mean, yes, I mean, it's fine like to listen to fans, but I think up to a certain point because sometimes there's suggestions out there. Sure, maybe depending on the idea, it could make sense for the franchise, but at times is it just leave it at that as fan theories because at times it'll just not make sense. Now that's just a general note, but I think here, like with these movies, like I said, it just went off the rails, and which is why really they're in the position that they're in now. And then mentions that, yeah, in some cases it led to the team to rethink the major deaths, including Letty. She says, quote, "People would sort of throw out little things about, oh God, don't kill Letty. Okay, we'll bring her back. She never died. Don't worry, nothing to see here." But that's all led by fan engagement. And honestly, like when they did stuff like that, where they kill off certain characters, but then later on they bring them back. I'm just like, what's the point in all this stuff, though? Because if you're gonna kill them off, just kill them off. Like, don't try to cop out because of complaints, essentially from fans. It just does not make sense, though, and it just at the end just became too ridiculous. And I think also not just that, but also too turning bad guys into good guys, essentially. Honestly, that's just ridiculous because like at first with the sixth movie with Luke Evans, I think he's one of the Shaw brothers, I can't remember, he was the villain in the sixth movie, but then by the eighth movie he's a good guy. Same thing too with Jason Statham because he was a bad guy for the seventh movie largely, but then became a good guy by the next movie. And I'm just wondering, like, what are we doing here? It's like, what are we doing? And then I think same thing too happened with Charlize Theron's character because she was the bad guy in the eighth movie, but then by the next one, oh, she's helping the good guys. It's like why? And also to John Cena with his character that turned out to be Vin Diesel's brother. which was just hilarious itself, where he was the bad guy, but then turned out to be the good guy. I'm just like, ay, 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 this is just ridiculous. But yeah, let's just go back to this article here. Like, so much ridiculousness with this franchise. So it says behind the scenes, the conversation around the future of the franchise is very different according to people familiar with the matter. The next sequel doesn't have an approved script or a release date. Most of the cast don't have deals to appear in it. Executives at Universal aren't even certain they'll make the movie unless they and the filmmakers can find a way to produce it far more economically than the last installment, which barely earned a profit. Over the past quarter century, 11 Fast and Furious movies have grossed a total of 7.3 billion, making it Universal's most successful big screen brand in a cinema landscape full of superheroes and robots. Fast and Furious found a lane for fans of over-the-top auto stunts and a huge racially diverse cast who emphasize their bonds as a family. And yeah, I don't mind seeing like the aspects of family, but I just think at times the way they go about it in this movie, particularly with like the later movies, it just becomes too over the top. But throughout Hollywood, mega franchises that once fueled the industry are sputtering. Marvel, DC, and Transformers movies cost as much as ever to make, but consistently earn less at the box office. 700 million is the new 1 billion has become a common refrain in Hollywood about the new box office reality. I mean, I think partly why some of these franchises are just not resonating. I think because maybe they've been going on for longer than they should have. But also too, it could be like a quality issue as well too. Because I bet that like, oh, if they do stuff, let's say that's out of what the movies are supposed to be about, I think that's when it'll dip in regards to box office numbers. Fast and Furious is grappling with the same problem. Its last entry, 2023's Fast X, was the franchise's lowest grossing release in more than a decade at 705 million, and its most expensive with a budget of 340 million. Universal executives have told filmmakers they won't make another sequel unless it costs around 200 million. That way, it would earn a healthy profit even if it grosses less than Fast X. Studios typically look for a film to gross three times its budget to earn a targeted return on investment. Wow. So, yeah, because I'm just wondering though, like even if let's say they're able to agree to that budget, is it gonna make the film any better itself? I mean, it's up in the air because with these movies of recent have gone way over the top and like the quality has certainly dipped. I don't know if the shorter budget is gonna help it at the end. I don't know. I think they're stuck either way though, because I don't see a world where because with the actors involved, mainly Vin Diesel, they demand high salaries. I don't know if they're gonna compromise to a $200 million budget at the end. Um, but even if let's say they're able to agree to that budget, I just don't know if it's going to improve the film itself though. But I mean, we'll see. It says everyone involved in the movie is scrambling to find a way to deliver the action and scope that audiences expect on a budget that matches Hollywood's new economic reality. Their plan is for the movie to be the capstone for the current cast. The only thing we're focused on is making this a satisfying finale both creatively and financially, said producer Neil Morris. After that, Fast and Furious might go in a new and less expensive creative directions on TV and the big screen, people familiar with the franchise said. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think for the franchise, at least right now, assuming they're able to agree to the budget, I think make this next movie to be the last of the franchise. And then they need to take a break, probably a long break if they actually do want to come back to this franchise. Take a long break and then probably come back and reassess their next steps essentially. So on Wikipedia, take it as you will. These are the projects they listed for the future. So we have Untitled Fast X sequel. This is what we're discussing essentially with this article. Um, and then we have Hobbs and Reyes. I think that's meant to be like a film that's with The Rock and Jason Momoa's character. Um, because I think what in the last movie, it's been a while since I've seen it. I think with Momoa's character has a grudge towards The Rock because of his involvement with Fast Five, with the Rio heist, essentially. But I don't know, but based off what happened with the last movie in terms of box office, like I won't be surprised if they merge some of the ideas for that, assuming if they actually, did a script or a treatment, they'll try to merge it into Fast 11 to make it a finale, so to speak. But we'll see what happens with this one. And then also, too, they have untitled standalone movie. This was announced back in 2024, where Zach Dean, who's the writer of Fast X, he's hired to write the movie for this. And then there's untitled female-led spin-off, where this was announced back in 2015, and the project was confirmed in 2019 with Nicole Perlman, Lindsay Anderson Beer, and Geneva Robertson Dort as screenwriters. And we haven't heard much about it since, but that's what they have in terms of future projects for Fast and Furious so far. I mean, but I imagine now, like with the last one not doing well, they'll probably have to um, regroup and reassess if they're actually going to move forward with these projects or not. So back to here. Um, Fast cars and girls in short shorts. Fast and Furious was an unlikely candidate to become a blockbuster franchise. The first movie, released in 2001, was a $40 million production about street racing in Los Angeles with a cast of then little known actors including Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, and Jordana Brewster. It was about fast cars and girls in short shorts, said Stacy Snyder, who ran Universal at the time. It wasn't designed to be a 25-year franchise. And I would agree to that because I didn't mind I think at least at the beginning for these films I didn't mind for these movies to be just all about the street racing, the illegal street racing, and all that stuff. But because it seemed like quite limited with that idea. But then when they decided to go in the direction they went, as I mentioned, I didn't mind it at first as long as there are limitations, but then just after the sixth movie, it just went off the rails with that idea. And then here we are today, essentially. The Fast and Furious did well enough to spawn sequels, but the series really exploded with the release of the fifth film in the franchise, 2011's Fast Five. Universal substantially increased the budget and abandoned underground racing for an Ocean's 11 style heist that climaxed with the car racing through Rio de Janeiro. While dragging a bank vault, it was a massive hit, particularly overseas. In the 2010, studios set release dates for sequels to their biggest franchises and then rushed to meet them, even if it meant going to production without completed scripts. Audiences in fast growing markets like China often valued spectacle over narrative consistency, so it didn't seem to matter if the movie strayed far from their roots. Fast and Furious followed the trend. By 2015, Furious 7 Toretto's crew had transitioned to pursuing counterterrorism missions in Abu Dhabi. It was the highest grossing film in the series. Yeah, because with Fury 7, I mean, there's aspects for it to enjoy, but just as a film itself, I'm just like, I don't know about it because I did do a review of the movie at the time, but on the channel. But yeah, like I wasn't surprised that it's the highest grossing. I think because of the circumstances involving Paul Walker's death and all that stuff. But I don't know if it's like the best of the franchise, in my opinion. The franchise was also becoming a moneymaker for Universal outside of theaters. Fast and Furious Legos, t shirts, and car series hit store shelves. There is a Fast and Furious attraction at Universal Studios Florida and a coaster in the works at Universal Studios Hollywood. Film audiences embrace increasingly outrageous auto stunts performed by the most racially diverse cast of any major Hollywood franchise. Diesel and Rodriguez became big names, while other A-listers cycled in and out, including Dwayne Johnson, Jason Statham, John Cena, Charlize Theron, and Helen Mirren. The cost of paying actors, producers, and directors and writers in the series skyrocketed over time. Diesel, who also produces the movies, now makes more than 25 million for each. A person familiar with the matter said. Ensemble cast members earn between 2 million and 10 million, depending on their importance to the franchise. People familiar with their compensation said stars who have joined the cast, like Momoa, are also expensive, as are directors charged with managing the complex stunts and big egos. Fast and Furious movies are among the most difficult that Hollywood makes because of the action on screen and drama off screen. Diesel, Johnson, and Statham have insisted on counting blows in fights to make sure they don't come off as wimpier than their counterparts. And when I saw that at the time, I'm just like, that is just ridiculous. After a public falling out with Diesel during filming of 2017's The Fate of the Furious, Johnson appeared in the 2019 spin-off with Statham but not Diesel. I mean, I didn't mind that spin-off, but I think because like it's Fast and Furious, it just did not, I would say, work on that aspect. But if we were to say outside of it, sure, I didn't mind because it'll be like a typical buddy cop movie essentially. By 2021's F9, the series was losing its way creatively. Universal's top movie and TV executive has wryly acknowledged she cited an infamous scene featuring actors Tyrese Gibson and Chris Ludacris Bridges. So, yeah, we already talked about this where Don Lange says, yeah, like she regretted taking them to space because I think, yeah, they just listened to film Twitter and all that stuff, and it just did not make sense at the end of the day. Slowing down, Fast X, released in 2023, went over budget in part because it was shot during COVID and because director Justin Lin, who worked on five previous films in the series, was replaced by Louis Leterrier early in shooting due to creative differences. Because I remember, yeah, that was a huge story at the time. The visual effects costs were also sky high, as they are for every big action adventure movie these days. It grossed far less overseas than its predecessors, in part because the Russian market has been closed to Hollywood since its war with Ukraine began, and East Asian audiences started to prefer local productions. Domestic ticket sales for Fast X were the lowest for the franchise since 2006. American moviegoing still hasn't fully recovered from the pandemic's shutdown, and many people are losing interest in film franchises that have been chugging since before today's teenagers were born. I mean, yeah, not wrong there. Diesel initially said on social media that the next movie was scheduled for April 2025. Then Leterrier said it will come out in 2026. Despite Diesel's declaration at Fuel Fest that it's coming in April 2027, Universal has not set an official release date. People close to the next Fast and Furious film hope it'll start shooting next spring and come out in 2027. As Diesel suggested, they wanted to take place largely in LA, though shooting here increases budgetary challenges because of higher label costs and less generous tax credits. Filmmakers also hope to return the series to its street racing roots. They haven't said whether they'll use technology to bring back Walker, who died during the filming of Furious 7. Now, I think I've mentioned this when I talked about the franchise before on the channel, but I don't like the idea of them bringing back the character because the way that they kind of ended his character in Furious 7 just, made sense given the circumstances and all that stuff. But I think they throughout the series they try to mention him or try to include him in some sort of way, just which did not make sense because it could have just retired the character completely, or if they're really keen on having his character, just recast him. As simple as that. Maybe have one of Paul Walker's brothers to play the character if they really want to have him on screen. Because I think, yeah, just having CGI like Paul Walker or AI, who knows, it's just kind of icky. Even if, let's say, they do get the family consent, it's still kind of weird to watch that stuff knowing that the actor is no longer alive. The most recent draft of the script, informally known as Fast X Part 2, would cost about 250 million to make. A person familiar with the matter said the filmmakers still need to find about 50 million of cost savings. To get there, they're considering shooting in fewer global locations and giving some cast members smaller roles if they appear at all. Though Universal hasn't made deals with many of the movie's actors, their agents aren't expecting raises. The studio is also considering less expensive ways to continue Fast and Furious in the future, people familiar with the matter said. Writers are working on scripts for a live action TV series, and executives have discussed spin off films for certain characters or stripped down lower budget movie. The goal is to revive interest in the franchise for a new generation rather than continuing to coast off wanting nostalgia. Yay. So I was discussing this with my brother earlier because I'm just wondering, because I know that they want to go back to street racing culture, but it's just the point that they are at now, it just does not make sense to go there, especially how things were left off with the last movie. So I really think they're stuck either way, though. So it's possible that this movie may not come about if they can't agree to the budget. But even if, let's say, they were to agree to a budget, how is the story going to pan off, though? I mean, who knows what's going to happen with this movie? Maybe it'll suffer the same fate as what was the last Divergent movie? I think what was it Allegiant? Because there was supposed to be another movie that to conclude that franchise, but that ended up not happening, and they all just abandoned that. So if they're not able to come up with a consensus here, it may face that similar fate as Allegiant. But we'll have to wait and see what happens here. But I think from a financial standpoint, they're stuck. And I think from a creative standpoint, they're stuck though. Because I think just for this movie, should it actually come to fruition, make it the final movie of the franchise, and then take a break, a long break, reassess. If the movie does well, I would revisit the franchise. If not, then just say, this is the end and all that stuff. So we'll see. And I'm really curious though, like, is a TV series going to work? Because I'm aware that they did a TV series for Netflix called Fast and Furious Spy Racers. And I'm surprised it lasted that long for 6 seasons because I've never watched this series, but I guess it went on long enough that people watched it. So yeah, okay, but yeah, I mean, we shall see what happens here with this movie. I think anything can happen at this point, but I won't be surprised if it doesn't move forward. If they're not able to agree with the budget and the direction of the movie. So there's my thoughts on all of this. So let me know in the comment section, what do you think about all of this? Do you think this movie is going to move forward? Do you think it's not going to happen? What do you think is going to happen with the future of the franchise? I mean, let me know in the comment section. So if you want to support me, you can visit buymeacoffee.com/numpymalloy, where you could donate and also to look at posts there. I do have a community tab on YouTube, so you could feel free to leave comments there if you're a subscriber. As long as it's under community guidelines, you'll be good on that. And if you want to follow me on social media, my links are in the description. So I want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to catch you on the next one.